Your Car Guy here. Today we have a 2008 Ford Ranger. This one is a four-wheel drive that has the check engine light on, and it is a code for a catalyst efficiency low. I'm going to show you it right here. I've already got my scanner hooked up, OBD2 port right under the dash there, and we'll see under our current diagnostic codes we have a P0430, catalyst system efficiency below threshold, bank 2. This is going to tell us that what's happening is the oxygen sensor is reading too much of an erratic signal in the exhaust stream when the vehicle's running. So, for example, the way the oxygen sensor reads is the cylinder bank 1, cylinder 1 would read that a rich lean condition happens at a fairly rapid rate. Once the stream hits the oxygen or the catalytic converter, it smooths out that stream. If that catalyst becomes broken inside the catalytic converter, it gets an erratic rate of change, a high-speed rate of change versus a smooth rate of change, and it's telling you that you have a bad catalytic converter. There are times that this can be caused by a bad oxygen sensor. However, that is rare. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to change the catalytic converter. Now this is a Ford V6, and so it's different than a Chevrolet in that bank 1 is on the right side or passenger side, and bank 2 is on the left side or driver's side if you're sitting in the vehicle. So we'll look under here and see what we've got to do in order to remove this catalytic converter. Now you can do this yourself. You can take it to a muffler shop if you wanted. But if you look up here, up above the drive shaft, this is our catalytic converter. Get back, give you a better view, and it's all in one piece that you can buy. The pipe runs up to the exhaust manifold, up underneath, and it has two bolts that are securing it, or two nuts that are hard to see there. There's the upstream oxygen sensor right there we're going to have to take out. There's also the downstream oxygen sensor right here on the bottom side of it. We're also going to take out. And then there's where the crossover pipe connects to bank 1. You can see on this vehicle, hey, bank 1's already had the catalytic converter replaced. So we're going to end up taking out these two bolts here. And then our two that come off the exhaust manifold right up in there. They're a little bit hard to see. We'll give you a better view later. What we're going to do first, we're going to spray PB Blaster or WD-40, a good penetrating oil, on these 4 bolts. The reason why is we don't want them to break. If these ones down here break, it's not that big a deal because it's a through bolt, meaning it goes all the way through with a nut, and I could replace that with any bolt, so not a big deal. However, if I break the ones that are up here in the manifold, they're a stud that goes into the exhaust manifold, and it's a nut that we're trying to get off. Then I'm gonna have to do a lot more work to drill out and replace those studs. So that PB Blaster will help free everything up, break it free, and allow us to get this done more easily and just make the job simple. So we don't want to break those off if we can avoid it. So PB Blaster on those, and we'll get going. Okay, quick reference as to where I'm going to have some access in. These are my 2 nuts. I can see that one and then the other one that's just below it. I can access them through the inner fender of the vehicle, right through here. I also can access the plug for this upstream oxygen sensor through here. If I need more room, I'll take this inner fender out. If not, I can work right through this hole. But based on the video, I think we're going to take it out just to get a little more room to reach right in here and get to our plug. As far as removing the inner fender goes, you're going to have bolt here, bolt here. We're going to have 2 up under the front right there. You're going to have where a wiring clip plugs in through that we can simply unclip and shove up through that hole. Then we're going to have a small bolt right here on the inner fender, and there's going to be 2 little plugs up here where the splash guard plugs in that we'll take out to get that inner fender out of our way. For the inner fender, you're also going to have a small bolt there, small bolt there. Okay, with my inner fender removed, I can see right back in here to my upper bolt, especially the one that's hidden behind the pipe from below. And also you can see right here that wiring That is our connection for our oxygen sensor. The plug is just right up there where you see that little bit of white and black, and that's the best way to get access to it so that you can unplug the O2 sensor for removal. Okay, here we are under the vehicle. One thing before I take the pipe loose, I want to go ahead and break loose my oxygen sensors, which are, you see the upper one up there and the lower one down here. Break them loose. We'll also unplug the plugs. The top plug was the one right behind the cylinder head. We've got it unplugged. This one is tucked up above the transmission here, so we'll have to work it down and unplug it as well. With those broke loose, the reason you break them loose now is once I have this pipe off, if I leave them in it, I won't have the same leverage to break those loose. So we'll break them loose. Next, I'm going to take these two bolts out. I've put a little PB blaster on the nut side where the threads are going to be most important, and then I'll just simply pop them loose. Take that loose, and I can take loose my upper as well. Okay, so to get to this downstream O2 sensor, the plug for it, so here's our O2 sensor, and if we look up, I'm going to shine a light up here so you can see. It is actually attached up underneath that bracket. If you see that green right up in there, that is the connection. You're not going to be able to reach that connection from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the shift cable right here loose, and you'll see this plastic tab. This holds it in place. It's got some little teeth right there that we're going to pull up and over and then shove it out the side. This will allow us to detach the cable. And then they're going to take these two bolts that hold this bracket on right here and the one right above it. We'll take those out, and I'll be able to lower that bracket down to get access to the O2 sensor plug. This would be what you'd have to do if you were changing the O2 sensor. So we'll get that done. Okay, now that we've got the bracket loose, I was able to pull down, and that's my connection for my O2 sensor. There's going to be a little tank right here. I'll simply push it down, disconnect it, and we'll be able to unscrew the oxygen sensor. Okay, we've got the catalytic converter out. For the most part, everything went well, other than that is one of the two mounting bolts that mount up here at the exhaust manifold. So the rest of the stud is still in there. Good news is there's a nice piece sticking out, so we'll have an option to grab it either with some vice grips to see if it'll unscrew. We can also take and weld a nut onto it, where we can get a wrench on it and then pull it out that way. So, you know, a little bit of work left to do to get that done. Now, this catalytic converter, which if you fit out, you can hear that's the broken core rattling around in there, and that's exactly why it set a code, because that core was allowing just the exhaust gases to pass freely through it, thus setting the code of catalyst efficiency low. So next thing we're going to do is see if we can get out that broken off stud in the exhaust manifold, and then we'll go and install our new catalytic converter. Okay, so our stud broke off on this side right here, and you can see what I've done is I've found a nut that'll screw up on the remaining bit of the stud that was there. I'm going to take my welder and I'm going to weld this nut to that stud. Two things that's going to do: the heat's going to help break up the stud inside the manifold, make it to come off a little easier, but it'll also secure it, and then I've got something to work on trying to pull that stud out of the manifold and then be able to replace it as I do it. Quick note, when you're going to be welding on a vehicle, always disconnect the battery on the vehicle so that you don't send any electricity up and surge and fry an electric module. Okay, we took our old converter out. I showed you the broken baffle in it. Here's our new converter. It's slightly different. Shouldn't be a big deal. Just a matter of putting it in. We did have one stud break when we were taking the old one out. That's quite common. What we ended up doing, and I didn't show it in this video, was removing the exhaust manifold in order to be able to extract that stud and welded a nut onto it. It was a little difficult to weld properly like we needed to with it in the truck. Welded a nut on it and then took it out with an impact wrench. So now we're simply going to slide this up into place. We'll put our two nuts in place, get it secured, then we'll put our oxygen sensors back in, put our brackets back up, and we'll be in good shape. So we'll go to that point. All right, we've got our pipe back in. We've put our two nuts back on up at the upper. We've put a new gasket in here at the lower where it connects on the crossover pipe. Threaded in our lower exhaust O2 sensor. We're going to slide our upper O2 sensor in, and we'll connect them. And we'll remember that we've got to go up above and connect above this bracket that we took off. And then we'll put that bracket back on and put the shift cable back in it. And we'll make sure we have everything plugged in right. And then it's just a matter of clearing the codes and testing it, and we'll put the inner fender in after we do that. All right, the project's done. The code is cured. The new catalytic converter's installed. You know, if you have any problems with it, send me a message. If you're doing the project yourself, please like and share the videos and subscribe to the channel. Help us grow.